continuing on our podcasts, directing all of our attention on the brand new Eric Hutchinson album, Before and Afterlife. I'm James, that's Eric, and we move on to track 2 of the Afterlife part. One of my favorite songs, only because I was there. No, it is. It's one of my favorite songs.
It's one of my favorite songs, too.
I loved, and it's Life After Life, and I loved it because without hearing you sing or hearing the acoustic guitar, the damn thing was great. I love that piano part. Mm-hmm. I love the bass coming in. The groove is super cool. The horn part's laid in. And it's the first thing you guys played, because you played Ultrasound. You played this, and then you played Ultrasound. It's the first thing I heard you play. And I was immediately taken into what you were doing. When Eric invited me to come, I didn't know what to expect, but I think I had an idea. And then strangely enough, as I was walking down the street, he came out to take a break. You were on lunch. So you walked out as I was approaching, so that was weird. And we got to talking on the street, and you could tell you were already in mid-session mode. It was a different kind of personality than I've seen you in, which was kind of neat. I thought, okay, I'm gonna go inside and be a fly on the wall. And then later on, I just found out when we started this podcast, I wasn't so much a fly on the wall. I was a noisy fly. But it was cool getting to know the guys. But before I talked to anyone, before I became noisy, I just sat in the middle of the room, and the song really spoke to me on a musical level. So, again, bravo on that.
Thank you.
Before we dive into the song, I do want to read from my notes from that day. I had a lot to write about, but there's only one section I wanted to read and share with the listeners. And this is after you guys have already been working with the song and how it's going to go. And I love that. That's when you guys are all down to, okay, everybody knows what they're going to do now. Mm-hmm. Let's record this. And I write, before long, they begin another take of the song. This one is tighter, more assured. The breakdown section, where the piano and bass grip the groove, secures the song's dynamics, softly ensconced in the pocket. The band is so tight that it allows me to actually hear the echo of Hutchinson's voice in the booth. Just then, the drummer kicks in with more verve, and they take the song into the second part, which I can see now is where Kulik, the piano player, has decided to deviate from her rhythmic bedrock to move up and down the keys as if floating on air. The horns now fuse into the backdrop of this lively take, harmonizing and then breaking off to express an even higher register, trills and flutters and spiked notes. Even Bartley's sax gets into the act, cruising beneath and then above the groove. Soon only the piano is left to roll out the final measure of the song. Once again, Kulik, all smiles, lets the last note disappear slowly. That is just a small part of what I witnessed that day, but there's moments in there where the song has so many dynamics in it, but you don't realize it until when I went and heard the playback, which I write about later. Then I could see what you're doing in there. So it's kind of neat just hearing those guys interpret it without you in the acoustic.
Definitely. Maybe I should release these without me on them. Maybe I
should be... No, but now let's talk about you. Where do I go when I die and my life has been lost? Now, this is Eric getting into the humor part of it. He's written a beautiful song to start out this section, inspired by his mother-in-law, but now he gets into some fun stuff. And this is what I love about you, and it's in here. Where do I go when I die and my life has been lost? Will I feel foolish for all of my funeral costs? Years ago, I actually wrote a piece called The High Cost of Dying, and it was really creepy, and I hope I didn't jinx anyone, but I had to call up and say that someone had died in my family to get, and I called different places to find out, and I finally come to the conclusion. I knew what it was back in whenever I wrote the piece in the mid-'90s. But then you go right into that chorus, ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la, life after life. That's so great. Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la, life after life. Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la, life after life. Tell me where that originated. Was that the first thing you had, or did you
I don't know. I guess the ooh la la, the laws are becoming life, as I say it, But I don't know. And it's interesting just knowing I put those in the lyrics, whereas I didn't write no, no, no in best part as part of the lyrics. So I guess I see these as part of the lyrics here. But, I guess what I'd say about the song first, the two things that I think about with this song is, one, it's very Mexican inspired. I love sort of folk Mexican music. And Jill and I had planned a trip to Mexico City that happened to be right after her mom had died. Then we decided to take the trip anyway and go down to Mexico City. And this was after we'd been there dealing with the very real aftermath of the funeral costs and the burial and all this stuff. And so I think those literal things were very much in my mind of like, what am I going to do when I die? Or like, what do I want for myself?
Yeah, you find that comforting too as an artist to put yourself in the position of the person that you're mourning?
I guess in general, something I've learned from you is I take other people's point of view a lot of the time. So I don't know. I don't know if this is me singing this song or not. I think this one is kind of me because I feel everything in this song personally.
When I wake up to find I'm sleeping in a pine box, well, I start thinking, hey, I should have worn warmer socks. Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la, life after life. Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la la, life after life.
I called this song Gringo Jaracho for a long time. There's a style of Mexican folk music called Jaracho, which is a very call and response, and I sort of copied some of that in here and used some of the formatting. So to me, it's like what I see in this song is a lot of Mexico City and sort of this weird. Jill and I kind of jokingly referred to it as the funeral moon. You have a honeymoon, but this was the funeral moon that we took right after, because we were like, what else are we going to do? Go home and cancel this trip and not? So we just took the trip anyway, and it was an odd trip, but we also had a lot of good memories from it. So, but I think that this is what it reminds me of this song. And also I think because Mexico has such strong, their ideas of death are very different, are very celebratory. Like
my wife loves that. The artwork of the Day of the Dead, and the dancing,
the Dias
and
de
the
las
masks.
Muertes.
Yes.
So I think
say that again.
Dias de las... I lost it.
Damn it, you had
Dias de las Muertes.
It's
I don't know. It's like
I
a
love
40%, right?
Please.
But all that stuff, I think... That's why I think this allowed this song to be a fun song about death, was in that same way of Mexico. And Mexican music is always so exciting and uplifting to me, I guess. So.
Yeah, that piano part is very reminiscent. I was going to mention that. I also love the Caribbean style of everything is what you make it.
So that's the Jaracho part.
Sing that is just so... we spend a lot of time, since Scarlett was born, we used to go to Cabo San Lucas. I love the Baja Peninsula part of Mexico. But we've been spending a lot of time on the other coast because it's quicker to get there. I don't have to have, in this case, a 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10-year-old sitting on an airplane for 8 hours and then another 2 hours down to the end of the peninsula. And you hear a lot of that kind of phrasing in the places that I go, like Cancun and Playa del Carmen and, even further down, Tulum. That's what it reminded me of, that kind of sound.
Well, that's kind of where it was borrowing from, and this is one of the places. This is like maybe the biggest place where I see how oftentimes I will use background vocals to write when I'm writing the songs, and I had sort of a B section that was going with this that I eventually ended up taking out. But so it was sort of saying everything's what you make it, and then there was a call and response of I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm waiting for the axe to fall. I'm waiting.
Oh, I see.
For the end of the world.
And that's whatever you make it.
I
how
guess.
You're dealing with it,
the
thing, how you make it.
I don't know exactly. I leave it up to you to tell me what I'm saying sometimes.
That's an insight. That's an interesting insight, how you did that. That's really
But I'm
cool.
waiting, it's sort of... Especially I liked this idea of it's the afterlife. What are you waiting for at this point, You're waiting?
Well, you're clearly conscious.
Yeah.
You're wondering about your socks and what your funeral costs are going to be, so...
Yeah.
Everything is what you make it. 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 I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
That's the beauty of this song. The conceit of this song is you're not even free of the worries of life. You're dead. That's the one good thing about being dead. You don't have to worry about shit anymore. But you're still worried about it.
Well, that's this perspective, and there's a song later on, Postcards from the Other Side, which is taking the other perspective more of like, that's the best part of being dead, is that you don't have any troubles anymore. And this one's a bit more of my Jewish side taking over, and how's death? It's good, but I should have worn warmer socks.
Exactly. Yeah. The food's terrible here, but such small portions.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. But yes, I forgot that you have the waiting part in there. So there is that, you left that in there. I mean, you could have. I know you said you made a conscious effort not to put background vocals on here, but what I mean by background vocals is like chorale vocals or harmony vocals or double vocals. You could have gone with the. But
I tried. That was the thing, was I was writing too much, and it had to be like recorded later or recorded as a second part. And I eventually decided, in the spirit of the project, I needed to be able to sing everything live. So it was a good editing tool, because it was like, which parts are important for me to say.
Right. And also, I will say, I'm not saying that it should have gone in there. I love the way it is. I love that you're kind of, the way you say is what you make. You can barely hear yourself say it, and I like it. It's like, because if you're just listening about it's what you make. Life is what you make. Right. Kind of the Paul McCartney line. Yeah. And what you take and what you make, but it's what you make, how you make it, or it's what you make of it in a way. So I love that. It's another way that you play with the language, the linguistics of it, that are great for the music, but it's also good for the lyrical content.
Well, thank you. And then going into that breakdown section, it's a line I'm pretty proud of. It seems like a very me type line.
Please.
I must be rolling over. I must be rolling over. If I'm reincarnated, I must be rolling over in my grave.
I must be rolling over. I must be rolling over. If I'm reincarnated, I must be rolling over in my grave. I must be rolling over. I must be rolling over. If I'm reincarnated, I must be rolling over in my grave.
So I guess that's what this song is as I'm thinking about it. It's the perspective of a person who wakes up buried, and they're like, oh shit, I'm dead, and I'm stuck in this box, and I guess my spirit has gone on, but I'm still here, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's sort
of being dead.
Yes, right.
Yeah, like a zombie.
That's the part I have the hardest time understanding, right? Is like, yes, that something moves on. I don't know. Who knows?
You're talking about the Hindu concept of reincarnation?
all these different versions of it. I just have a hard time understanding any consciousness after death, but who knows? There's plenty enough stories about it all.
Well, if you're born in the dark, right? If you come from somewhere, and I'm just riffing here.
Yeah.
But I've read, when I was working on the Trail of Jesus book, the whole idea was to bring all the different ideas of theology, philosophy, and religion, even Nietzsche, into the construct of the historical Jesus, which I was writing about when I went to Israel. And I found that because there's a lot of, going one way or the other, I found that the Hindu concept is a little bit more, or I should say, less conflicting. Your soul exists beyond whatever this is, then it goes into you, and then it goes somewhere else.
Right.
It's not about the ego. It's So if you are reincarnated as a goat, Eric Hutchinson in the box, it doesn't matter. That's just flesh and bone and
right. So I guess this is again going back to the Dias de los Muertos. This is a skeleton telling the point of view of like the spirit has left him, and he's just the body. It's just the story of the body afterwards, And if I'm rolling over in my grave, if I'm reincarnated,
This is the sweetest song about a zombie I have ever. Anything else you'd like to add to that?
I think I understand this song better than I did before, so I think we're in a good place.
I think we are. It's hilarious. Wonderful song. I really love Life After Life. It was an honor. The last thing I'm going to say about that, because we're going to go on to other songs, and none of the songs I was there. It was an honor and pleasure to be in the studio with you guys and to see you work after all these years.
Yeah. Like you said, though, there's serious Eric mode that's like...
It was.
Yeah, I'm just very focused and probably stressed out.
Yeah, and I didn't try. I think I asked you maybe 3 questions. I didn't really interact with you. I figured I'd interact with the guys because I wanted to see where this foundation was coming from. And you did take breaks, so I had time with them. It wasn't like in the middle of a take. I'm like, so why are you playing that?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it made sense. It's hard for me to not focus on that stuff when we're in the studio because I just feel like I have a lot on the line. You know, I'm paying for the studio time, I'm paying the musicians, and I want it to go well. And I guess worst case scenario, it's just not usable, which I've had happen in the past. But yeah, I'm just very focused on producing something, right. Literally.
Yes.
So
he is quite intense, but he also enjoys it. There were laughs being made and different things, and there was camaraderie in there, which was remarkable considering you guys only played twice, and that was only your second day in the studio, so it was kind of neat.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you could be there after all these years.
It was fun.
Everything is what you make it. Everything is what you make it. Everything is what you make it.